Number two, I was the first in the electronic media to warn you that it was the liberal Democrats and their social engineering that caused this collapse. They forced the banks to give loans to people who never should have qualified for a mortgage. I did this 6 months ago. I did it 3 months ago. I did it 2 months ago, and it fell on deaf ears. Now, with regard to the bailout that failed today, let's look at the way the top talk radio hosts reacted to this bailout proposal. Rush Limbaugh supported the bailout. Sean Hannity supported the bailout. Bill O'Reilly supported the bailout. Michael Savage opposed the bailout. Laura Ingraham opposed the bailout. What you see by this is that the hosts who are owned by the big companies, the hosts who are dependent upon guests from the Republican administration, the hosts who are the biggest Beltway insiders who pretend to be outsiders, the ones who cannot exist without access, the hosts who get a call from the president on their anniversaries, these are the ones who supported the bailout. I believe they have betrayed their audiences. They have deceived the people. They have taken their pieces of silver and denied their nation. Only Michael Savage and a few others were true to the American people and were vindicated today. The people have spoken. We will not give the bums on Wall Street another penny. Talk radio should have told you this the second the bailout was proposed. And if you listen to me, that's exactly what you heard. All of talk radio should have been equal to this task, but some talk show hosts are more equal than others. Now, I want to read you some of the comments made today. Representative Pete Visclosky, Democrat in Indiana, who voted against it, said this: "We are now in the golden age of thieves, and where I come from, we put thieves in jail. We don't bail them out." Check. Pete Visclosky, Democrat, voted against it. Here's another gentleman from Indiana. "I believe this particular bill would be devastating to the economy and create an inflationary nightmare. We must also ensure that we are not inadvertently purchasing bad debt from China or other countries." Who said that? Representative Dan Burton, Republican. He voted against it. So don't assume that this was a defeat. In fact, the defeat was bipartisan. The only people who were defeated were Nancy Pelosi and George Bush. Fundamentally, they were defeated. This is a huge story, and it's just begun. It's not over. It has just begun. It is not over. Now, I got to tell you, my family is split on this. I am taking a lot of flack within my own family on this. There are some in my family who were in favor of the bailout. Perhaps they have more financial acumen than I do. I am opposed to the bailout on principle, number one. And to me, principle is the key rule that drives this show. It's a chief engine that drives the show. I could be wrong financially, by the way, although I doubt it. As I said last week, I frankly think that the chips should fall where they may. And by denying the bailout, we're going to have a collapse possibly of Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and some intermediary banks. And I think that that's not such a bad thing for the country. I think it will cool off the wild, rampant casino speculative activities that have been occurring on Wall Street. We don't need a casino. What we need is a stock market. So where do we disagree? Then how can you give them the authority to correct the problem they caused?
We live by government. It's of, by, and for the people. These people are our employees. Whatever they do, if they screw
Yes,
up,
but they are failures. And in the private workplace, if a guy fails, you throw him out and put someone else in his place. Why would you entrust these crooks or these incompetents with the bailout? If you're going to do a bailout, let's do a bailout that makes sense. Don't buy toxic debt. Why should we buy toxic debt? In other words, bad mortgages. This is the part that nobody understands. They're bailing out their friends on Wall Street because they are the crooks who got us in this trouble to begin with. Sure, maybe there should be a bailout, but not run by them, rather not engineered by them.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Please, I wish you would.
Okay, it's like in the body, if you ingest a poison, the poison might go to a certain organ and make it fail. And you can apply a chelating agent that draws it out. And this bailout plan is merely a chelation agent to pull out these bad derivatives that were created by right-wing people who should have known better because they were greedy. And
let's slow down. Only right-wing people created derivatives?
Yes. When one organ fails, it can then cause multi-organ failure.
Wait. You just made a statement that I'm trying to follow. You're saying that right-wing people created derivatives. Who would they be?
Wall Street. Who made all these mortgage-backed securities?
Wall Street. Most of Wall Street are liberals. Look, in fact, if you investigate Paulson, Paulson's a screaming left-winger. Don't you know that, Lee? He backs all sorts of environmental programs that may be well-intentioned but have no effect whatsoever. He is a screaming liberal. I don't know how you can say Paulson's a right-winger.
Well, I don't think we can make that determination, but it's the people.
Well, but you're the one who brought up politics, not me. You're the first one who threw the right-wing label. I wish that I could say Wall Street was right-wing. They're not. Do you know that Wall Street is consistently in favor of illegal immigrants becoming citizens because it's better for the bottom line of the crooks who run the big companies?
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. But the problem is...
Well, but wait a minute. But again, that's not right-wingers. That's left-wingers. Or what winger is that? I don't think they're left or right-wingers. I think they're simply greedy.
Well, that may well be true, but the problem is there are hired agents. They committed malpractice. Damage has been done to important organ.
Okay, you're in the medical profession. You're a very logical man, and that's part of the problem is using logic where a logic does not apply. But if you want to continue on the logical path, let's be Aristotelian about it. You have a doctor who commits malpractice during a surgery. Would you let that same doctor go back into the patient, or would you bring in another surgeon?
Oh, I agree with you, but these people are going to be gone in a few months.
That's right, but I don't let them go back in and risk cutting another artery.
But the program
Aren't there other surgeons who could be brought in? Let me give you an example, Lee. We're intelligent men. We're talking here. We're going to have ramifications because already we had effect on this. You guys like you and listeners to this show already stopped this bailout plan. It was not listeners to Rush Limbaugh, not listeners to Sean Hannity, not listeners to Bill O'Reilly because they failed. We won. It's the party of the people who won. Remember that. And we're going to be heard again. We're saying, sure, we're in favor of a bailout plan, but let's use different surgeons, not the same incompetents who cut the artery. So you bring in new surgeons. That's what I'm saying. Now you say, well, who should that be? Lee, please hear me. And America, please hear me. During World War II, we had a crisis. It was total war. Some of the greatest American businessmen of the time were made generals to run aspects of the military machine that mere military men could not handle, such as supply, logistics, you name it. You follow what I'm saying? Even communications, General Sarnoff of NBC was turned into a general in order to run the communications division. That is the propaganda arm of the U.S. government. They didn't use a military guy. There's no reason we couldn't take men out of industries that are actually making a profit, who are honest and above board, and put them immediately into these positions. Get rid of Paulson, get rid of Christopher Cox, get rid of Bernanke, and put in a new troika, not communists. Thanks for the call. I'll be right back. Last night I had the opportunity to be around some very nice people, and most of them were liberal people. They agreed in inviting me not to discuss politics. I think there was an agreement that politics would not come up, and they were very polite about it. It did not come up. Well, after a few wines and a few drinks, politics seeped out into the conversation, and the election came up. I didn't say anything. I kind of walked away with my dog. But when I came back, I said with a very small smile, I said, may I ask you something? How many bedrooms do you have in your house? To a very nice liberal lady. And she said 4. And I said, you're living in there only with your husband, correct? She said, yes. I said, visualize an Obama government sending an agent out to your house saying, how many bedrooms do you have in your house? And you say 4. Then they ask you how many people permanently reside in the house, and you say 2. And then the government agent, the good liberal activist, says to you, the government is temporarily going to be using those 2 additional bedrooms to house people who were hurt by the recent financial meltdown. Please open your doors and welcome them with a welcome basket beginning January, February 15th. This is only temporary. We're not seizing your property. We believe in the free market. We're only using those 2 extra bedrooms in order to help the needy, which I'm sure you will agree with as a good liberal. Needless to say, the liberal individual who I presented that scenario to was awakened to the consequences for electing Barack Hussein Obama. I would recommend that anyone listening to this show who is so given to rewatch the movie Dr. Zhivago. Julie Andrews, 30 years ago, a wonderful depiction of what the Bolshevik Revolution did in communist Russia, did to then Russia, which became communist. They took away vast homes from the rich and gave them to the poor, who wrecked them, turned them into trash. In other words, visualize Section 8 housing. Visualize the people on earth who cannot afford a house because they don't deserve a house, because they never worked for a house, and they shouldn't be living in a house. They should be living in barracks provided by the government called public housing. They shouldn't be living in a home provided by the government through bailout mortgages. Do you get the picture? I get the picture.